Welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. We're going to talk about calming supplements because I know that the Calm Bee is on sale this month, and it's a question that I get regularly. What do I think about this calming supplement or that calming supplement? And there's a few things that I always answer before we even get to does your horse even need a calming supplement? So it'll be a short one tonight, but we will go ahead. So the first things I asked, questions I asked, sorry, are you overfeeding the horse? Is it getting too many calories, or are you feeding it a feed that might be changing its behavior? Is your horse being exercised enough in relation to the food intake? Because if they're getting a bunch of food and you're not riding them, then it'll either get laid down as fat or it can change behavior. And there are certain feed types that we know are more likely to change a horse's behavior. We know that sugars and starches are more likely to change a horse's behavior and make them hot. I've got inverted commas, hot. Is there enough fiber in the diet? And you think, oh, well, I'm feeding hay. You know that I always talk about the microbiome in the hindgut and how it's absolutely critical to keep the microbiome in the hindgut healthy. And that means a wide variety of different fiber types. The research on diet and mental health in humans and in animals is incredible. And it's an area that is continually being researched. There's continually new things coming out. And what we know is that having a very diverse microbiome can decrease stress in an animal and can have calming effects on their behavior. So making sure your horse has plenty of fiber and a variety of different fiber types actually can change their mood. Is your horse spending a lot of time in a stall or a stable? Maybe they've
Do you mind
been
if I have it
on
on
a layup
until
and they're stuck in a
she's fine?
stall and so they've got extra energy. Or maybe it has nothing to do with extra energy. Maybe it is the fact that the horse is stressed.
She's very
9 times out of 10, a horse changes their behavior based on a pain response, and stress can be pain. Um, so the positioning in the barn, can you change the positioning? Do they prefer to be on the ends? Do they prefer to be on the middle? Do you have multiple horses in your barn and you work this horse last or you work this horse first? Maybe you can change up your management a little bit if they're not getting a lot of turnout. Um, so there's also research done in Europe where they looked at putting horses out. They were performance horses, show jumping horses, and they put them out in a field. There wasn't actually any grass in the field. They just put them out in a field with buddies. So they really were able to tap into that herd instinct, and they measured cortisol in the horses. Cortisol is a hormone that indicates stress. And when a horse is stressed, remember what they're going to go into? They're going to go into that flight response. So hyper, all the blood is going to go to their extremities because they're going to have to run away. And that does change their behavior. And these horses that were able to just go out into a turnout area in a herd, cortisol levels significantly decreased in those animals. Is the barn or stable environment stressful? You wouldn't believe how many barns I go into in the wintertime, especially when horses are in and they are blowing out the barn with horses in there, even sweeping the barn with horses in there. Is this particular horse really stressed by maybe you run a lesson program and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon there's 5 kids running up and down your barn aisle? Maybe this horse needs to be out in his turnout while that's going on. So again, looking at management. The calming supplement is the last resort. Are there other things that can be changed or altered before we get to the calming supplement. Because after the calming supplement, you've got nowhere to go other than drugs, right? And we know that obviously you can't use drugs and still safely ride the horse or compete the horse. Is the horse's behavior due to pain? Like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's pain. It's skeletal, it's muscular pain, it's gut pain, it's hindgut pain. Okay, I can't hear any of you, so I hate this new setup they've got on here. But someone is not muted. I'm hearing someone is not muted. Yeah, okay. That person. Like, mute. Mute. Okay. Be sure not to use this setup next time, because I can't hear any of you somehow. Does the saddle and the bridle fit properly? That kind of factors into, does it cause pain? Are the teeth in need of attention? All of these things should be attended to. Sometimes the teeth are fine, but is there something else going on in the mouth? Maybe they ate some hay that had that kind of, I'm blanking on the name of it, but that awful grass seed that gets stuck in their mouth. Or there might even just be a sore in their mouth. Like, I've got an ulcer on the tip of my tongue right now, and it's incredibly awful. So is it something in the mouth? Is this a new behavior? Can you track back to what may have caused this behavior? Was there something in the environment that you can say changed? Well, I can tell you right now that my kids' behavior has changed because it hasn't stopped raining here in the last 2 months, 2 weeks, I should say, and they haven't had outside recess, and they are crazy. So that certainly changed their behavior, their lack of exercise due to it's wet outside and I haven't been able to turn them out. So knowing if it's wet outside and you haven't been turning your horses out as much because you don't want them to trash the fields and get mud everywhere, then maybe they need a little extra exercise or handling from you just to keep their energy levels down. Was there an outside trigger for the behavior? Maybe the turnout field that they have, there's bugs in it, or there's a construction going up next door. I mean, any number of things can be a trigger. Is the horse also losing weight? Might this be a signal of gastric ulceration or even hindgut ulceration? Do they have diarrhea? Maybe that is a sign of leaky gut syndrome. That is, we've seen me talk about that, and that can be very, very painful and change their behavior. Is the mare's behavior due to a hormonal cycle? Can you track when she comes into heat, and can we attribute it to that? Does the behavior only occur at certain times? And again, if we're tracking, if we're really for a week tracking all management, all behavior changes, when it happens, maybe it's when the other horses go out, maybe it's when they know, because horses are very routine animals. So maybe in the morning they know they're getting turned out and they start getting antsy in the stall, changing their behavior. They're really hard for you to lead out to the field because they are just excited to get out into the field. And all other times they're really calm. Is it just when you're tacking them up? And so whether you're trying to measure a horse's behavior, or actually last week I was at a farm and she wanted to know whether she should feed a certain supplement, and I said, well, why don't you really document daily? Let's set measurements of standards. So if you're feeding a supplement for your horse isn't recovering well after exercise, we're going to do a certain grooming behavior that usually would make him wince away from your hand, and you're going to do that every day, and you're going to measure, you're going to find a measurable thing. So maybe if it's behavior and you walk your horse past a certain thing every day and he's spooking at it so crazy, we're going to see if after you start a supplement, can you walk him past that and he'll be calmer? So we need to be able to measure whether anything we're feeding is changing their behavior. So these are a bunch of questions that I always ask first. And you think, well, why is she asking all these? Somebody wants a calming supplement. I'll just sell them a calming supplement and then call it good. But you know what happens if you take that approach? Really, if you take that approach to anything you're selling, is you could be selling them the wrong product. If you feed a calming supplement, if they say, oh gosh, my horse is just nuts and I really need a calming supplement, and you sell them a calming supplement, but it was due to gastric ulcers, the calming supplement is not going to do anything because the pain is still there, right? If it's the fact that all the horses are getting turned out first and it wants to go out and you want to keep it in and ride it. And so you just turn everyone out and then I'm going to try and ride this horse and he's going bonkers. You know, you've got to be realistic about what the amount of impact that a calming supplement can have. The other thing is you don't want to feed a calming supplement once your horse is already crazy because again, once that cortisol is already high and they're in that flight response, the only thing that's going to calm them down that point is drugs. We're not selling drugs. So my point in saying ask all these questions is I want you to get to the bottom of what's actually going on with the horse and help the customer solve the problem. The outward behavior was the final symptom, but what's actually causing it? You know, a few, it might be, yeah, well, this horse is just nuts, or I just need a little bit to take the edge off as we're working through certain management or certain behavior issues. But we know it's not a pain response. Okay, then we can do that. But you need to find out exactly what's going on with the horse. Even work with the veterinarian because you want to make sure that you're selling them the right thing. Okay, so I put this up here because magnesium seems to be the hot topic. And the first time I did this presentation was back in 2017, and it was the hot topic then. And I always say magnesium's a fad, but it's really hung around. And magnesium and tryptophan are probably the two most common ingredients in a natural calming supplement, right? And magnesium, and I always say, you know, with every myth, there is an element of truth that started it. And it's not a myth that magnesium has a calming influence. But at what rate? And what else can happen to the horse if you feed too much or too little? And so the myth is, oh, my horse is deficient in magnesium and that's why he's got bad behavior. And so if I add a magnesium supplement, that's going to calm him down. And that's just not the case. It's actually pretty rare for horses to be deficient in magnesium. Magnesium makes up actually 60% of the skeleton, 30% in muscle. So it's pretty abundant in the body. And it helps to maintain calcium, right? And it also functions in enzyme regulation, muscle contraction, regulating calcium, going in and out of the cell. It's absorbed in the small intestine primarily and the large intestine. And it's also magnesium by itself that comes in different forms. There's lots of different mineral forms of magnesium, magnesium sulfate, magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, and some are more beneficial than others. And so magnesium sulfate has actually been used as an anesthetic. Um, we know that if a horse is very deficient in magnesium, yeah, that can cause nervousness, muscle tremors, and incoordination. But we also know it's actually super, super rare for horses to be deficient in magnesium. That's not to say that adding additional magnesium can't calm nerves and muscle tremors. And I'll get to some of the research, but we don't want to feed too much. Excess compromises intestinal integrity. Epsom salts, which is magnesium sulfate, it's poorly absorbed and actually has a laxative effect. Um, excess magnesium blocks the up of calcium, so it regulates calcium, but excess can block calcium uptake. Excess can also block phosphorus uptake. So, you know, everything in moderation. When people start going crazy, oh, I need all this magnesium in the diet, then what are you interfering with? Some of you may not have seen this, but those of you that have been on a lot of my webinars, you may have seen it looks like a giant spider web, and around the outside of the circle is all the different minerals that are important in animals, and then the relationships between them. And so it's just this, it's kind of like when you make rubber bands into a ball and you just keep putting rubber bands, and it's just this big giant web. And what it shows you, though, is the interrelationships between so many different minerals. So too much of one is going to interfere with a random mineral that you had no idea was connected. We know that calcium and phosphorus are connected. We know that zinc and copper are connected. But did you think about magnesium and calcium and phosphorus? No. So always be careful. It's often used in a calming supplement, as I said. But speaking from experience, because yay, I'm 45 and I had to have a colonoscopy, magnesium is what's in the awful stuff they give you. And it definitely has a laxative effect. And yes, I just said that in a recording that's now going to go on YouTube. Yay. So magnesium aspartate, that's one that I didn't mention. That has been used in a study where they measured the kind of spook response in horses. And so they set up this test where they were going to do the exact same kind of startle reaction, and test these horses before and after feeding them magnesium aspartate. So they either fed them 2.5 grams or 10 grams, and feeding the horses 10 grams mimicked giving them a normal dose of aceprobazine. So yes, large doses of magnesium can really calm horses down. But what they also found at 2.5 grams, it really was minimal, not a lot of behavior change. But at 10 grams, yes, huge behavior modification. But we also found that at 10 grams, urinary calcium excretion was much higher. So they're at 10 grams, we're interfering with calcium absorption. What else is calcium important for? Buffering the stomach, bone health. So everything in moderation. You know, you focused on magnesium and you fed him a boatload of magnesium because he was a little hard to manage or nervous by something, but then you inflicted another problem. So we've got to really be careful about just focusing on one mineral and getting them out of balance. Then we start to say, okay, well, there are some minerals and nutrients that are needed by the body, but if you feed too much of them, then they might start having a performance enhancing effect. So we know that magnesium, when it comes to the USEF and the FEI banned substances list, magnesium cannot be injected. Another reason why, I'm not a huge, I do not like injecting supplements. I don't like any kind of injectable vitamin mineral supplement. I like them to consume it because that's how those minerals are supposed to be broken down and absorbed anyway. But giving fluids to horses, no injectable substance may be administered to any horse or pony within 12 hours prior to competing. And the fluids must not be supplemented with electrolytes such as magnesium. Last week, actually, also at a farm, a client had started a high magnesium supplement, and just for a short period of time, her horse had developed diarrhea because she put it on a loading dose, thinking, oh, I need to load it. So, it can be transient that magnesium is going to have that effect as well. But yes, we don't want to be injecting any substances with magnesium, which brings us to the Calm B. So the Calm B, the primary ingredients in here are magnesium and tryptophan. Oh, I took that out. I took that out. Oh man, I took these slides out. But anyway, um, so we have magnesium carbonate at significant amounts um, in the paste and tryptophan. And so this is a magnesium carbonate, that was magnesium aspartate that really interfered with calcium and phosphorus because it's super bioavailable. So we use magnesium carbonate in here so that we won't have as much interference with calcium and phosphorus. The other question I get all the time is there any banned substances in your calming products? No, there is not. There's no, tryptophan is not on a banned substance list. Magnesium in an oral supplement like this is not on a banned substance list. But here's what those organizations will tell you that feeding a supplement to directly alter a horse's behavior to have a performance enhancing effect goes against the ideals of competing in the FEI and USCF. But there's no test. These ingredients are not tested for because their amounts in these supplements don't elicit any response negatively. So there's no test for these. Obviously, the paste and the powder, two different convenience formulas. The paste is a little stronger than the powder. I say if daily you're taking the edge off your horse, the powder, if you're going to a show and your horse gets a little anxious, or it's when the veterinarian comes or the farrier comes, then use the paste prior to. But again, if we have not investigated gut health, then I would be trying Rescue Aid, DDA, and Cool Gut before I tried Combi. Okay, and don't try them all together because then you don't know whether those other digestive health products fix the problem or not. Then we get to mare relief. And so I put mare relief in here because, that is one of the things. Mares' hormonal patterns can change. Some mares become moody, change their behavior. Um, I don't have a lot of experience with a lot of these herbal ingredients. Now, obviously, there's magnesium in here as well. But I know that Dong Quai, red raspberry leaf, magnesium, these are a chasteberry extract. These are all herbal supplements that are used in menopausal women supplements. Um, Maybe they have an effect, maybe they don't. Mare Leave is a product that I definitely say it's worth giving it a try if you have a moody mare and you've ruled out all the other issues that could be causing, and okay, this is cyclical. It's when she comes into heat, she's moody. You can try this product. It's not going to harm anything, um, but it tends to be some horses it really works well. Other horses don't seem to have a response. So I think the primary ingredients that I look at in this are the donquai, the red raspberry leaf, and the chasteberry. You can see there the other ingredients, the placental substances can supposedly support hormonal fluctuations, the calcium D-glucuronate and chrysin and the indole 3-carbinol, which I didn't even know what they were. I know what calcium is, but stabilize relationships between estrogen and progesterone, which it's estrogen and progesterone going up and down that cause these hormonal fluctuations, that are the hormonal fluctuations that change their behaviors. But red raspberry leaf can improve uterine health and kind of that muscular contraction in the uterus. Dong quai, has been used in human nutrition quite a lot, as has chaseberry extract. The other product that we don't really think about when we think about calming is if we are feeding a diet that is very high in sugars and starches, and we're mainly doing that to maintain body weight, maybe it's oats or corn, um, or to maintain exercise level, then you might look at switching the calorie source, decreasing some of those calories that are coming from starches, coming from the grains like oats, corn, or barley, and changing it to a higher fat-based diet with higher fermentable fibers. And so using the oil and decreasing those sugars and starches, certainly in research, and we all know anecdotally this works, has resulted in a calmer demeanor in horses. So that's another avenue. Like, we need to know all these things. When somebody comes to you and says, my horse is has a little erratic behavior, he's a little bit hard to control, we're going to go through all of these different scenarios and give them lots of different options so that we can really get to the bottom of this problem. Gosh, I put up here the 2024 FEI Clean Sport list, and it didn't save, and now I've got this old version. But anyway, you can search the 2024. Let me even just do it for us right now. Let me see here. 2024 FEI banned substances list. Oh, criminy. Anyway, let me see here. Move this over here. Put the PowerPoint back up. Nothing's ever easy. FEI, safe sport. And so I always go with FEI because the USEF is governed by the FEI, which is kind of the Federation Equestrian International. That is the whole shebang. And that will have clean sport for humans and horses. But let me see if I can bring this up here. Okay, I'll put it over here. You should all be able to see this. So this is FEI's Clean Sport for Horses tab, and you can go down and there's prohibited substances, prohibited substance database. So you can click on it and you can actually search. So tryptophan, I will type in tryptophan. And you see that no substances. Yucca is another one. Yucca, is that one? No. But then if you put in magnesium, for example, magnesium sulfate injected controlled substance. The other one that we've got to be careful of is devil's claw, right? That's another controlled medication. So if ever you're wondering, go to search the database on the FEI Clean Sport page, and that could be super helpful. Oops. So with that, that was just valerian at the time. I was getting a lot of questions about valerian. It's also on the prohibited substance list. It's not something that I hear about often lately, but back when I first did this, I was getting a lot of questions about it. So with that, any questions? Now, I don't know why I can't hear you guys, but just type away furiously and we can answer your questions. We'll go back to the beginning so that I'm not just staring at nothing.